Hi guys. I don't know if this was the smartest idea to make this video while I'm walking on the side of the road because it's loud out here. But here I am. It's been a while since I posted anything, and I feel perfectly fine about that. But I am back. I'm in the US of A. I am in Arizona. Good old desert life. And I've been back now, I lost count. I think today is day 10. I'm officially back in the US 10 days. And my God, it feels good. I cannot tell you how good it feels to be. I feel grounded. I feel much more in my body. I feel safer. A lot of things. I think no more fight or flight. Stable, let's just say. And I feel really grateful and lucky to be back here. And so anyway, as I've been home, first of all, I was hit with a doozy of jet lag. I wasn't taking into consideration that I was 2 years out of the US and also in a 9-hour time difference. So that jet lag was serious. I was agitated. I was just a hot mess, tired, couldn't get my sleep right. But eventually I started looking up what to do, how to get my circadian rhythm back online, and slowly got myself back to sleeping right, feeling good, feeling so much stronger. Very grateful. I'm staying at my mom's in Arizona because that's my only option right now. And I was very scared of this, to be honest. I had my reservations about this, but you really can't be picky. I needed the help. And I'm grateful for my mom for offering it. So it allows me an opportunity to ground. She lives in a really nice gated community, and they have a pool, they have a gym, even got a little steam room there. And so it's been very great. And I like it because I'm not really in the outside world yet, because it's like a gated community. I'm still sort of in this protective bubble as I get my strength back and all of that. But I've had a lot of ideas and a lot of insights since I came back. And so I've been wanting to share and get up on YouTube, but also I'm like, no. Because, many people will say you have to keep yourself visible online. You have to keep yourself visible online. You got to motherfucking take care of yourself first. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the way to do it. I didn't care about being visible out online. You know what I mean? I mean, you guys watched me lose my whole sense of identity, my whole sense of self, my whole business, my goals, everything that meant something to me, I lost. So, I mean, if you think I'm going to sacrifice any more of my sense of self-worth for YouTube, no. That doesn't mean it's not important to me to share things. It just means that actually my well-being, my mental health, and my rest is more important than anything. More important than views, more important than business, more important than money, more important than anything. And I've really been able to put this into practice. And so I still share at my own pace, because I feel like as I'm learning and growing, I want to teach others in that way. And so I'm not going to do it out of sheer exhaustion and showing you guys how exhausted I am. Believe me, I was exhausted. Y'all don't need to see it, I can tell you. And by taking that long break, it also shows that I honor myself. And it's okay, I don't need to be seen, liked, and viewed to honor my space and my time and my rest and my needs. And so I still have so many videos and so many things to post. When I was in Macedonia, I had a real opportunity to really take care of myself, slipped into my feminine essence, and it was beautiful. For anybody, even if you're not coming from trauma, I think women in general it's very difficult and challenging to fully fall into your feminine and to really feel safe and show that to the world, because it's very attractive and you're so open, and we feel vulnerable almost in that place, because we don't want people to take that from us in some sense. You want to be able to be in this feminine and feel safe to be in your feminine, to be a woman, and for a lot of us, that's very difficult, and so that's what Macedonia did for me. And then coming back put me in a bit of a tension, but now I find myself I'm passing a childcare a childcare preschool that's called Watch Me Grow. And I think that's really cute and kind of ironic, because I feel like that's the purpose of these things, right? When we do this, like what I'm doing right now, like watch me grow in a way. And I hope you do too in the process. So that kind of thing, that was kind of sweet. Watch me grow. Anyway, and so I spoke to a friend early this morning, and she's lovely. I haven't seen her in years, and we get each other, and she kind of followed my journey and understood the core wounds and the karmic debt I was facing, and breaking free from people pleasing and putting herself last. As women, we do this so effortlessly, and I think we try to break the chains of our mothers and grandmothers and all this. And so she's always been kind of silently cheering me on, and it's really nice to connect with her. And I told her, it's been challenging being with my mom. It's been beautiful, but also challenging. And she said something that I really loved. She said, she's like, you're at a place where integration meets the core wound. How beautiful is that? And I was like, my God, you nailed it. Where integration meets the core wound. So I love this, because it's like you do all the work, you do the shadow work, right? And you get the time to sit with yourself, to sit with your feelings, to process. But it's nothing. It's truly nothing if it's not put into practice. You know what I mean? If you're not faced with the core wounds. And for me, that's a lot of me and my mother, kind of challenging relationship. And actually the other day, her and I had a bit of our first falling out since I've been back. And it was not good, but it was great. And it was great because everything that I've struggled with my mom, with feeling not seen, with feeling like she has a way to put me down, and but understanding also where that comes from in her, in her feeling disappointed in me in a lot of my past decisions, and choosing to look at me and treat me as that identity that I no longer am, and still having a picture in my mind, in her mind, of who she thinks I am, based on my past and my past choices. And this is always a challenge, right? Lots of kids that are adopted, if you have a core primal wound, you can probably struggle a lot with self-worth and all of this. And it's very hard, it's a challenge to feel good enough, And I think this is also very interesting in the realm of adoptive parents too. I have a friend that we talked about this the other day. Parent and child are always a mirror. This is always karma and dharma. This is always something, a child will always be a big reflection, And I think once you really get to the core wounds, you can see that you're both kind of scared of the same things, self-worth and unworthiness. And I had to think to myself, my mother probably went through a lot of feelings of unworthiness, of just not having her own children, not biologically having that already causes a separation, within her. And then feeling like parents tend to do something, I think, very unconsciously. They take on their children's mistakes, and they often feel shame, and then put shame on the children because they don't want to feel ashamed. Or, my mom said that very clearly to me. She always felt sometimes with me and my brother, how does that look as me as a mother? What kind of mother was I that you're, and that hurts to hear as a kid, as a grown kid, because it's like she's looking at as it more as a shame upon her, and, you have to have these very uncomfortable conversations, and I had to have a conversation where I feel like she blocks herself sometimes with me. There's a resentment there because she's disappointed, and you cannot fully love if you're constantly disappointed in your child, and this is hard. And and also for me, on my other end of it, I empathize with her, and I understand her, and I understand that she's very disappointed in the mistakes that I made in Europe, and having to come back and losing everything, and her having to save me, which she did, and scoop me up in all of this. And so once we can have these uncomfortable conversations, and I was very proud of myself. It got to a point where my mother was saying things that were very hurtful, and I put up boundaries to not treat me like this, to not speak to me this way, and that I'm not a child, and I'm not stop placing past versions of me, and not allowing me growth, and I think parents unconsciously do this. They have a vision. They want their child to look a certain way, be a certain way, and so they form an identity for them, but that's not who they are. And if a child, even as the child grows older, maybe the parent still wants this kind of identity for the child, but the grown child, but that is not who they are, and so this is a challenge. Your children are still your own people, and the family, I think this challenges family structure, because parents have to let go of their version of that child, and as an adult. And I know a lot of my adult friends, like my friend that I spoke to this morning, her mother still, she's also my age, 44 years old. Her mother still, has a perception of her from a very long time ago, and so we have to break these molds. But anyway, it's been a beautiful reflection of I see the sacrificial archetype woman of my mother. I see that in her, and how she sacrificed a lot of maybe her dreams and visions for a husband, to take care of a man, and this is very common, and I think this generation, my generation of women, we're fuck that. We don't want to do that. I believe women can have everything. I believe women can truly have everything. They can have, if they want a successful relationship, I think they can have a successful passions and jobs. I think they can have a successful sex life. I think they can have, successful, be a successful mother. The beauty of traveling was I got to see so many different versions of parenthood, and so many different versions of cultures that expressed parenthood and expressed mothering and expressed women and men differently. And I got to see different relationship dynamics, which if I'd stayed where I was, maybe I would have never been open to seeing different forms of relationships, couples that live worlds apart but thrive, polyamorous couples, mothers raising their kids and in a completely free, open way with the child. I met one woman from England that child didn't want to go to school. She completely supported his decision, and he became a mechanic, and he's 16 years old, and she allowed him the utmost freedom, but was still loving. There's so many different ways to parent, and I think all of these structures are changing. How we parent our children, how we how we are evolving. The family structure is evolving in so many different ways, and it doesn't have to look this way or that way. I always considered myself a non-traditional person. I never like to be boxed in. I don't like to be conformed to anything, and I think that's true freedom. I don't like to be labeled anything. I don't like to be in a box. I don't like to be this or that, or like check this box. No, and no. So I just feel like having these very open, solid conversations that I'm having now with my mom, with a new sense of clarity. She understands me better, and I understand her better. And I think the beauty of this is she's maybe seeing in me some of the things and some of the ways that I am free that she wasn't. And instead of being envious, I can see she's proud of that, you know. And I see this happening a lot around the world. We're breaking the cycle, you know. I don't want to be like I admire my mother and her strength and her resilience, but I don't want to get stuck in traps that she did or my grandmother did, and so on and so on. And so, yeah, it's just something I've been recognizing and realizing being back here. How is it being back in the U.S. after 2 years in Europe, you ask? It's hard to put into words, and I think maybe those words will come slowly more as I don't know. I have a lot of really creative ideas happening, and I'm letting them unfold slowly. But I think what's important to me now is less about performance and more about being as authentic as humanly possible, and just appreciating all of the masks that I've shed in the past 2 years, and being really proud of myself and the strength that I've gained in losing everything, in losing a false identity, in losing the need for validation, to know my worth. And I'm very grateful that everything was stripped away from me, and I was left with nothing, barely any clothes, money, place to go, nothing. It's amazing. It's amazingly freeing to have nothing. And then to still find joy in life. And, you know, I had nothing and I was still making YouTube videos, okay? I was still writing notes on sound classes on the side of the road fucking somewhere in Bosnia, okay? You know, and I mean, when I look back now, I'm like, my God, that's a beautiful thing, you know? But now I think what's more important to me is true stability and traveling. I think I learned, and shedding all of these layers of these false faces I've worn. I've actually narrowed down to what's really important to me, like values. And some surprised me, some didn't. But I think freedom is a big one. It's just freedom in your expression, freedom in the way you live your life, and complete autonomy, I think. Keeping your autonomy in a very chaotic world, in a world that often asks you to be a performer, to keep up with the Joneses, to fucking follow an algorithm, to, you know, show up all the time, and all of this stuff. And do it if you love it. Do it if it drives you. But if you're on a rhythm and you feel like you have to, that's when I think it's safe to take a step back and say, wait a minute, who's running this ship here, you know? And so, yeah, that's kind of the state I'm in. I want to share something with y'all, something that triggered the fuck out of me. Because remember, I'm a whole human being, and I have so many emotions and so many layers and depth. That's the beauty of women. I think we have so many layers, and there are so many facets to our personality, and that's why there's so many archetypes. You know, if you've ever heard the archetypes, you know, the maiden, the mother, you know, the vixen, the siren, you know, the wise woman, the witch. You know, I think all of those, we're all in one, and that's a beautiful thing. Sorry, my neck has been hella cracky. because I've been working out a lot, and I think I'm releasing a lot of tension. But I'll show you a masking. I'll give you an example of a serious masking. I'm a recovering people pleaser. And so the best way I can describe that people pleasing comes from a deep wound of unworthiness, right? And a lot of traumatized people are people pleasers. And it comes from just a deep state of unworthiness. You want to be seen and heard, and you just want friends, and so you will go to anybody that'll give you attention, listen to you, see you, hear you, and you'll think everybody has the best intentions, and you'll often sacrifice yourself for the needs of others. And so I did this most of my life. It's the most exhausting thing, anybody that knows. And it's very hard to come out of it, right? Because it's a process. Once you come out of it and you start asking for what you want, and you start setting boundaries, and you start saying, I need this, people start looking at you funny, and people start, thinking like, well, who do you think you are? Well, I am. That's who the fuck I think I am. And so, and then suddenly this bitch side comes out, and I like to joke around, and I said the first thing that I discovered when I started healing from CPTSD is that I'm actually kind of a bitch, and I like it, and I remember this bitch because this bitch used to be out when I grew up in New York City, and that's a very authentic city. I don't think you can hide from yourself there. And so I had more of this bitchy attitude, but I was an alcoholic then, so I was like a bitch, but like kind of on the mean side. And now I'm just like a bitch, like they say there's a difference between being nice and being kind. I never want to be nice again. I just want to be kind. Nice is where essentially you hold back what you really feel, and you just smile to everybody because you just want everybody's approval, and you want everybody to like you. Kind is like, I'm going to be kind to you by telling you the truth, no matter how bad that is. I'm going to tell you the truth because I love you and I care about you. And that's real kindness, I think. And real kindness is also saying, I don't have the capacity for this today, or I have a boundary, or you know what I mean? That's kindness to the self. We forget. But anyway, before I left Arizona, I was telling a friend about this recently. Before I left Arizona, I I met this person, and I think people from trauma, you're deeply intuitive. And I think you're deeply intuitive because you were a sponge your whole life. You're probably very empathic. And I've always been highly empathic, a high psychic ability. But I learned to diminish this voice and not believe it, because traumatized kids, people from dysfunction, CPTSD, you learn not to trust the inner voice, because this voice is louder. The intrusive thoughts, the voice that tells you that you're not good, you're horrible, all of this negative talk, that one is louder than the I am within you, the intuitive voice, the Godhead in you. And so as a child, I always had strong psychic and intuitive abilities. My mother would always tell me this. But anyway, the intrusive thoughts always overrode that. And so as an adult, I would get intuitive hits about people, and I would generally always be right, And but there was a part of me that didn't want to believe that. Didn't want to believe that this person was going to take advantage of me, or that this person was not being honest, or this person was trying to manipulate me in some way. I would always put it back on myself and say, no, Jen, you're the fucked up wounded one. You're the wounded one that can't see, or that is, seeing bad in a person, So I always put it on myself. I always destroyed myself. Well, I met this woman, and I thought I liked her a lot. I liked her attitude, and we would talk a few times, and I fell into my naive sense, and I thought she was cool, and I got swayed into. Master manipulators are really good in making you do things, and later you turn around and you're like, what in the five fucks? Why did I do that? Anyway, And so I'm not going to say, but I supported her in some way, right? In some business venture. And we talked a few times on the phone, and I loved our conversation. We laughed a lot, and I was like, wow, she's cool, you know. And she was always saying that she loved my personality. I was like very New York, and she likes that kind of, you know. So I thought, oh, cool, you know, another friend. You know? But then she was trying to get me involved in some business thing, and I just said, oh, thank you, but, you know, I don't have the money for this. When I tell you the demon that came out of the body of this individual was so intense, I heard a snarl. Come, like an actual snarl. Demons exist. Snarl come out of her, and she hung up on me and told me it's your loss, and never spoke to me again, after seemingly thinking I started this friendship, right? Anyway, this is one in many stories in my life. And what I did was I buried that down, and thought to myself, okay, you know, I was angry, but I was also like, wow, okay. But I still didn't want to demonize her, because I was like, that's not right, you know. And it's not right to demonize people. Let's just put that out there. It's not. But anyway, fast fucking forward. I didn't think about this person or this incident for many years. I clearly have got a lot going on in the past 2 years, you know. And so recently I saw her visually. And this is how you know you've done work, right? You've done shadow work. And just her face sent something through my body, a visceral reaction. Now, I guess you can call this similar to a trigger, but what it was the anger I never expressed in that moment. It was the fuck you I never said in that moment. It was the hurt and the sense of, bitch, I fucking knew you were sleazy. I didn't say in the moment, right? I don't condone these things, guys. You know I'm going to be funny, but I don't think you should call somebody sleazy or anything like that. But I do think you should stand up for yourself. And I do think if someone treats you like that, you have every right to turn around and be like, listen, don't you ever fucking talk to me like that again. I had to say that to a family member recently. I didn't throw the F-bomb in there, but now I'm standing up for myself, because I see in all the ways where that little wounded girl allows people, you know. You got to think of this is like survival of the fittest. You know, the weakest are the ones that get attacked usually. And so I was venomous, and I was like lashing this out with a friend of mine, and I realized this is something that I always say, you know, emotions are so important to come out. If you are angry, be angry. It's very important you're angry. And like, I was always the person growing up, when somebody was in a fight or an altercation, I would always try to smooth it over and be the peacemaker. But this is actually very dangerous. And let me tell you why. People who do that are dismissive. And I was dismissive. I didn't realize it. When you dismiss someone else's emotions. I've had many friends get into fights, and people tell me, my fucking husband is a piece of shit. Now, I know that's not reality. They're angry in that moment. Let them be angry in that moment. Let them get that out. Don't ever tell somebody, do not be angry. Do not, you know, express that. But when we don't express in the moment, this situation hurt me and upset me, that gets stored in the body. Now, I did a lot of work, right? And so when my body saw this person, it said, whoop, you got something that you didn't let out, and let it out. I don't hate this person at all. It's cleared, it's gone. I understood what my role was and my place was. But my body reminded me that because you suppressed and you didn't stand up for yourself and you didn't use your voice, and someone that disrespected you, that's going to come back. And so you've got to learn to handle it in a good way. It kind of went off, but I had to get it out. Luckily, I had a safe space to get it out. But sometimes I think just acknowledging that, writing it down, or saying it out loud is the best. But never suppress that. I also told my mother this, you know, when you're constantly overgiving and overextending, and you're doing things, check yourself. Why are you doing them? Do you want to help everybody in the world? Do you have enough to help everybody in your world? Is your tank full that you can help everybody in the world? Why the fuck are you helping everybody in the world? You know, if you can't, and you do because you're looking for some kind of validation or you're looking to be needed, then that will sit in you as resentment, and you truly cannot love a person and extend yourself to a person when you hold resentment. You can love a person and also resent them, but if it's not expressed, if you're not being true to yourself, if you're not being honest, that's a problem. And this is a big thing in codependency. I've caused a lot of issues in my life for being so codependent, because I allowed my problems to be other people's problems. And then they want to help me, and then it causes a whole fuckery web. And then you got to be very careful with help. That's why I think it's so important that we learn how to empower ourselves. And I'm still in the process of doing this. But I had to learn the lessons, and some very hard ones and very uncomfortable ones in that process. So I think true autonomy and independence with community, with support in a healthy way is probably the best thing. Anyway, I think I chatted enough. None of these are ever in order, but you know, it is what it is. I'm on my way back, and it's not so bad here in Arizona. The heat, I think my body has acclimated to it, and it's not so bad. So I'm wearing a shirt from Serbia, a hat from North Macedonia, and I'm in Arizona. How beautiful. All right, guys, talk to you soon.